start over. So anyway, I'll probably say it sometime again, but so anyway, Mallory does image consulting and personal branding. And, I wanted to have something celebrating women entrepreneurs because I built my business a lot by networking, and I run into so many brilliant women out there that are running their own companies and really hustling. And it was told to me that there was just, not as many women entrepreneurs as men. So I said, you know what? Why don't we celebrate the women entrepreneurs that are out there? And I asked Mallory, and she was so happy to say, yeah, to jump on. So thank you, Mallory, for coming. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your business, and what got you started being an entrepreneur?
Thanks for having me. As you said, I'm an image and wardrobe consultant. So essentially what I do is the majority of my clients are women. I say I help women celebrate themselves again. And really, I basically help people increase their confidence and credibility, because I'm a big believer in when you look good, you feel good. And I speak for women, being a woman myself, that we're very affected when we don't feel good, feel like we look good on the outside. It's hard for us to kind of get outside of that and feel like we can have a really amazing day. And so I basically help my clients develop an overall image that's consistent with who they are, what they do, and what they really want the world to know about them. Because we all know first impressions are so huge in business, and a lot of those first impressions are based on our appearance. So I look at that as an opportunity to use our wardrobe and our image as a way to tell people who we are before they really know who we are. So kind of giving them kind of that inside scoop and feeling like they can relate to us in those first impressions.
Cool.
Yeah,
and we're going to come back to that, so they know who we are before they know who we are, something like that. Because we're going to talk about a topic that you brought up. It was really fiery. You told me you got a lot of feedback, so we're going to get back to that. We're going to talk about that. But so why don't you tell a little bit about your background, because you have a pretty impressive background when it comes to style.
Sure. So I was a fashion marketing and management major in college. I went to the Art Institute in Chicago. While I was there, I had the opportunity to go and intern at Marie Claire magazine in New York City. And while I was there, I also started my certification at the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York in image consulting. So I knew that I wanted to work in the fashion industry, and I knew I wanted to do something with wardrobe and dressing people. So I worked really hard to get as much education formally as I could. So I became certified in image consulting from FIT, like I said. And then when I came back, I finished college. About a month after graduating, I had the opportunity to train and certify with East London from TLC's What Not to Wear. So that was an awesome experience. I learned a lot. And that was where she's huge on kind of the emotional, psychological connection between how we look and how we feel and how that can affect so many things. So I came back and started my business a couple weeks later, basically. And I haven't looked back on it. It's kind of been an upward spiral. So, yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, that is a pretty impressive resume.
Yeah.
Looks like we have somebody. Johnny Bravo is. Now, what's really interesting here too, because you do image consulting. You probably do it mostly for women, right?
You primarily, yes.
Okay. So Johnny's in here. He's jumping in, and he's actually does modeling for some clothing lines. I know Johnny. He's out in Chicago, so This is his very first lab, so he's going to jump on. Put the woman in the seat as well, so another seat will open up. But Johnny, we're going to welcome you in. Mallory, why don't you tell me, what do you think have there been any barriers to entry being an entrepreneur or women? Do people take you seriously? Do you find other women maybe might feel a little bit and what's the right word? Not threatened or uncomfortable, intimidated. There you go. My wife helped me again. She's great at that. Intimidated.
Yeah, the wife is helping you out a lot tonight. Yeah, I think there's been different challenges. I would say I started my business when I was 22 years old. So I think being 22 years old and starting your business has its challenges itself.
Wow.
You don't really know what you're doing. You know what I mean? At 22, it's kind of like, yeah, I love what I do, but the whole running a business, doing what you love was a huge challenge because it just is. You don't really know what's going on yet. as much as I guess that's the best way that I can say that.
Okay.
And I think, being a young woman entrepreneur really was a struggle because it was kind of this barrier of a lot of people didn't take me seriously for a while. Because I would go to networking events and people would say, "You're young. What are you doing here? Like, why are you here?" And so I think for me, kind of the overcoming a lot of the age thing really was a struggle also. And then I'm showing up and my business is very much about how people look and all of those things. So it kind of had this other level of people. It always makes me laugh when people are like, "Oh, I was so nervous because you were going to be here." Like, "Oh, I was worried about what you were going to think about what I was wearing." It's always funny to me because I always think I'm probably a lot nicer in my mind to other people about other people's appearances because I'm thinking about, is there some, are they not feeling great about themselves? Whatever it is, it's just funny to me that people think like I'm the only one that judges them based on their appearance. So there was definitely some challenges with that, for sure.
So why don't we talk about that? Why don't we talk about appearance? Because really that's what you specialize in. And let's just get straight to the hot topic. Let's just go right there. Because was it a video or was it a post where you were talking about how yoga pants is sabotaging your business or career, right?
Yeah, I did a Google Hangout with it. And it was kind of funny. As soon as I posted the topic, all of a sudden on my social media, people were kind of pissed off at me. They were mad that I was calling them out. Like I went to their house and I was like, you need to get out of these yoga pants. But it was kind of funny because I thought, well, if I'm getting such a reaction, you're obviously wearing your yoga pants too much and you know it. You know what I mean? But realistically, I've looked at it as our society has become so casual, right? Franklin, you and I were talking about this, that people have just become so casual in the business place and just in life. I think we think like, hey, I can wear my yoga pants all the time. And I'm not saying there's anything like you can never wear yoga pants. I'm not saying that, but I think there's a time and a place. And a lot of people are kind of not knowing where that line is because so many of us work from home that we think it's easy to roll out of bed and just go to work. Like that's the easy thing to do. But they've done so many studies on our productivity levels and how we psychologically associate certain types of clothing with certain types of certain activities. So our subconscious mind associates yoga pants and those types of things with relaxing or working out. And we don't realize it because it's our subconscious thoughts. But if you notice, I even did a test on myself. I did spend a couple days in sweatpants when I was working from home. And I felt like I got nothing off my to-do list. And then all of a sudden I just got dressed like I was going to work. And suddenly I got more done. And I hear that so often among my clients, family members, and friends, and all those sorts of things. It's one of those things where I think it's like you're putting on almost like a uniform, or you're just putting something on. You're putting on that persona. Like you're deciding that you're a business owner, kind of thing. But it was really funny because definitely got a huge rise. I did not expect to get that kind of reaction from people. Like, I just think like, oh, I'm being kind of funny, like putting this topic of why your yoga pants are sabotaging your business. And suddenly like everyone got really defensive and they're like, I'm productive no matter what I wear. And I'm like, well, I mean, if we're being defensive, right? We only get defensive when we kind of know there's some truth to it.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, so that was really, it was kind of interesting. I did not expect that kind of reaction. But the more people, even in conversations I've had with people about that topic, I've had so many people that get very on edge when it gets brought up, like, oh no, like, no, I'm the exception. Like, I'm the exception to that rule. Like, I'm productive no matter what I wear. I can still take it seriously. So it's interesting for sure. For sure.
That's everything.
Oh. Hey, Johnny, it looks like you're kind of walking around. You're outside. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention, but Johnny's also a hip hop artist. So he performs. He's about to head down to Atlanta for a big conference, music conference down there. Do you want to weigh in on this? Because I mean, you're into fashion. You model and
definitely. Can you guys hear me all right? Okay, awesome. I'm sorry. It seems like I'm a bit busy over here. I'm definitely paying attention. I do agree that appearance is a lot of everything, especially in my industry. Again, I am in the music industry, and I do a little bit of the clothing industry. At least I'm attempting to jump into it. So the yoga pants thing, I do find it to be a bit hilarious, but I understand why it was an eye opener. With the industry that we're in over here, the music industry, I don't know if you guys have seen any of the clothing line. It's called Cato. It's like suit and tie. It's real debonair, but it's the hip hop industry too. So just to balance that out is really important, and I see exactly where you're coming from as far as appearance and business mixing and being crucial to the impressions that you leave on either your customers or vendors or partners or
Nice. Right. Hey, thanks for that. I gotta give you some props for that. That was good. So yeah, I think too one of the things that prompted me to want to do this discussion was I was at a meeting in downtown Chicago, and it's for veteran-owned businesses, and they were talking about women entrepreneurs. And a study, I guess you could tell my light kind of went out. But, they're doing a study, and they said that there's some reasons why in the study it came out why there were fewer women entrepreneurs than men. And one of the things they said was that men were less interested in making it perfect when they went out there. I think you and I discussed that, Mallory. But they found as women were saying, hey, you know what, I want to make sure every piece is put together just right. And if it didn't work out, it ended up being a very huge emotional disappointment. So a lot of women tended to shy away from becoming entrepreneurs because of that reason. So did you experience that? Have you? And I'd like to hear your response, Mallory.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I had started my first business when I was 21, and I'm in the food industry. I am a restaurant specialist. Spend a lot of time with the fast casual industry. Yoga pants are prevalent. They're everywhere. It seems like it's like almost a uniform, I think, for some businesses. But honestly, I think that one of the reasons for women being, maybe not so
Why
such
did you
large
walk
numbers
away?
in the business, entrepreneurship, that kind of thing, is I really think it is the responsibility that we have as a woman, traditionally anyhow, and I can tell you from my personal experience, I have 2 kids. I have been in business for myself for 9 years. And I've worked through the labor pretty much with this. And being a Gen Y woman, I felt during my burnout, I was like, what was this? I really had a huge burnout. I ended up having to sell all my businesses, really just jump out for a little while and just be me, be a mom, and do that for a while. So I think, that fear of that happening, yes, we spend so much time with these little tiny things, making everything perfect and really putting our heart into it. And I don't think women are less strong emotionally or able to bear the failure any differently than a man is. I just think that generally we have more work. I think there is becoming a bit more of a shift as Generation Y women are more apparent in the business industry, or sorry, not industry, business field, in whatever industry they're in. And, I actually had clinical burnout from working too hard by the time I was 27. So I had, I was a perfectionist when it came to my home life. I had this Pinterest mom thing where I had to have, I had to customize my kids' hangers and their, make this like beautiful home so that I was that chick, I was that girl. I had it all. And people used to refer to me as the super mom, the superwoman. And it wasn't true at all. Inside, I was dying. My pituitary gland was just like, give it a break, girl. And pretty much sent me home on the couch for a good year and a half, honestly. Wow. So, I really think that is a huge, huge, huge undertaking for a woman as a Gen Y woman. We've got the house to manage, the kids to manage, plus another career. And if you throw in entrepreneurship on top of a career, wow, wow.
Yeah. Hey.
If I may interrupt, I do apologize. Mallory, it was definitely a pleasure meeting you and learning a bit more about the entrepreneurial endeavors that you're doing. I do have a quick meeting to run into. I hate that I'm so busy on this end, but I really wanted to take a peek in, to see exactly what you guys were doing and what was going on. And it's definitely a pleasure, and I am looking forward to meeting with you guys soon, if more sooner than later, hopefully.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks, Johnny. Thanks for jumping in. Yeah. All right.
Hey, thank you, Frank. And you guys have a great evening. I will be in touch with you this week.
Okay. All right. Take care.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye. So he's getting ready to go down to Atlanta for a big music conference. He's actually going to be performing down there. So anyway, let's get back to the topic at hand then. So Mallory, you how are you keeping your business sustainable then as an entrepreneur? Because you say you started young and you've been doing it for a while. I mean, that's quite a feat to be able to keep it going.
Right. I mean, I think, like everybody, you find other ways of, keeping things going when things get slow. You always, that kind of thing when it's starting up. But I've been really fortunate, and I think a lot of it is mindset. I've really learned in like the past year, like when you're it's not just thinking positively, but when you genuinely are like, you just believe that your business is going to work because it's just going to, things just start to happen. I've really experienced that, especially in the last year when you truly like have a lot of belief in yourself, I think is what it really comes down to. I grew up with my parents as business owners. So to me, like, I don't know anything else. Like, I grew up I never was like, oh, I'm going to go get a job. That was just never a thought that crossed my mind.
Same here.
It was always like, growing up, I'm like,
yeah.
My parents were always like, so what? My dad is always like, well, what kind of business are you going to start? Because that's just what you do. So I kind of think I don't know any different. I could never imagine myself working for someone. And I knew that from a really early age. Like I knew, I was like, people have bosses? Like, what's that? Like, what's that about? What's that about kind
How
of
could
thing?
they do that?
Right. Like I don't understand how that works. Because growing up with business owners as parents, I loved that, although there was times where the things weren't flexible, I always had loved that my parents could kind of decide like, hey, if we don't want to do this, like you don't have to do, you know what I mean? Like when you get to a certain point, you get to kind of delegate in other ways. So I think just growing up with that, I just knew like you put in the hard work and it come, when you get what you give kind of thing. So yeah.
So your business is really personal too, because
Yeah.
I mean, you really go to people's homes and go through their closets and
Yes.
like like I was telling you the other day, I said, I'm holding on to those those skinny jeans. I may get into them one day, but you're like, hey, you know what? You should get those out of your closet or whatever until so you really, I guess, to do what you do, you're kind of maybe on the other spectrum as far as being pretty brave, going into people's homes and being able to say, hey, get rid of this or put that away.
Right. I always say like what I do is like 90% psychology. Like I'm kind of like a therapist, and I always say, because what I do, the process that I go through with clients, it's much more psychological and emotionally, you change in a lot of ways than people think. I always say the bonus is that you come out of the experience looking really awesome. but because really at the end of the day, for me, it's all about like, how do my clients feel? I want them to feel really amazing about themselves. For me, like I said, it's a bonus that you look great. And like I had said to you, I'm a big believer, and we start every single morning getting dressed every single day. And if you have a closet that's literally filled with negative emotions or things that don't make you feel good, you're putting on those emotions in the morning. Women we're notorious for it, with like beating ourselves up. Not that men don't do that also, but I think as women, we're very emotional, and like, we're very like, if something doesn't fit our bodies, because, for a reason that we don't want it to not fit, we're like beating ourselves up. So we'll keep it in there just to like, kind of like torture ourselves. I've had clients tell me like, I'm keeping it in there because I want to see that I'm not fitting in that, and it's motivating me. And I'm always like, does that motivate you to like tear yourself apart in the morning? Because then every morning you're going by that and you're like, oh, I don't fit into that. So now you're all of a sudden like, your morning, how do you shake that off and have like this phenomenal day, right? When you've already started off on kind of a negative foot. So my goal with my clients is to have their closet be a space that's just like a very positive space, something that they know they can go into their closet and just feel like whatever's in there fits my body, it fits me, and they can just feel like they can go and own whatever they got to do that day. So, yeah. It is very, it can be intimidating, because I know people are intimidated to have me come to their homes. Like, I'm like, here, you're hiring this person to come to your home to tell you what to keep and what to get rid of. Like, it's a personal thing. And I understand that it can take a lot to come to the point where you're admitting like, okay, I need this help. I think I have a lot of clients that struggle with like making that first call of admitting that they need help in this area of their life. Because a lot of my professional women clients will say to me, I feel like I'm just supposed to know how to do this. It's like Tiffany was saying, I need to know how to do it all. Like, I need to do it all. I think women, like, we're notorious for that. We feel like we're supposed to know how to do everything and do it phenomenally.
Wow.
And I always say, I always say that's what makes moms so amazing, is that they're like willing to put themselves last and do everything for everybody. And then when it comes time for themselves, it's like you don't feel as great about yourself anymore. And it's like, but I should just know how to dress myself. I should just know how to do it. So it's kind of like this battle inside their minds of, should I even be spending the money on myself? Should I be spending the time on myself? And a lot of it comes down to like, do they feel like they deserve it? A lot of
well, honestly, about too, like knowing who you are after my kids, because you're like, okay, should I really be wearing this really nice vest because my little guy's just going to throw up on it 2-3 times by the time lunch comes around?
Exactly.
And it's really I totally can relate to that.
Totally. And I know I've had so many clients that are like, I don't even know, like, what is my style anymore? I don't really know. Like, you almost, not that you lose touch of yourself, but it's almost like you lose sight of like, what should my style be? And like, how can it relate to my lifestyle, but still be me? Like, because really your style is personal. It should be you, but it also needs to adapt.
So do you see a lot of men having the same issue as far as, or do you see a lot of fashion faux pas out there with professional men?
I mean, I do. Men, I think, don't have as many choices as women. Like, men don't have like as many accessories, and like, there's not as many options as far as like types of garments. Where women, there's like 1,000 different types of tops that you could wear. And we're like, a lot of my clients are like, so how do I even choose like one that works for me? But men, for sure, I think for me, a big one is tailoring that comes to my mind with men. A lot of men don't, for whatever reason. It's interesting because men were always the ones that understood like suits need to be tailored, right? I feel like they always kind of got that. But for some reason, I've noticed recently, like very recently, that men aren't getting things tailored anymore.
Is there less tailored?
What was that?
Are there less tailored? I'm just curious.
Yeah, and I think sometimes because I don't know if it's like some of the retailers aren't educating people on that tailoring is, most retailers offer it in-house. So, but I don't know if they're just not offering that. I'm not sure where the shift has happened.
You know what I think happened? I think it's just the way that the culture. I mean, we were talking about that the other day. In my industry, in digital marketing, everybody is hip. They want to wear, a shirt like this, maybe a jacket and some jeans, and that's it. Whereas my image, I was trying to put together for my company was, we're always going to be in suits and ties. So I think a lot, you'll find with the older men, I find a lot of older men are still in very well-tailored suits, where you find maybe the younger are starting to say, well, let me be hip. Let me be like Mark Zuckerberg and all these people and dress like that because that's what's in. So I think that's where the shift actually happened. And now you're probably right. A lot of people a lot of younger men are probably not being educated on how to get a well-fitted suit. Now, how far should your cuff come out from under your shirt, from underneath your cuff, and things like that. So I think that's where the shift happened. It's just the society is changing.
Right.
That's mine.
And I remember you and I had talked about that especially with your industry. And I think industries in general are just like very, very casual, where it's just like Tiffany said, it's like yoga pants are the norm in certain industries, or like jeans and a t-shirt, which is fine. But it's also, I think sometimes we need to realize, like, when are we pushing it a little too far, right? Like, there's sometimes where I'm like, well, maybe we can put some pants that zip on. Like something with a real waistband.
That's it. I don't know if anybody read what Michael was saying, but he brought up a very good point. He was saying that there's a fine line that separates the two perceptions of having a personal and a professional state of being or presence. and he was saying he's a professional chef, and that when he's in the presence of his company, I guess he just presents himself as his personal persona, not try to have the professional one, if that's right. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
What he said.
Yeah.
But that doesn't the risk run? Doesn't the risk also run though? Because I was always told, I forgot where I heard this, but it said, you should always try to look nice because you never know there's going to be a Hollywood producer out there walking around. So I'm very conscious about that,
Yeah.
when I'm out and about. You never know who's going to be that potential client even so,
Right. Well, I actually have a client who, it's kind of a funny story. She originally called me because she was working from home a lot of the time in a very professional industry, but she was able to kind of work from home a lot and just go into the office sometimes. And she said she was working from home, ran to the local grocery store, not thinking anything of it. She was in her PJs, and all of a sudden she ran into a client
Oh, wow.
who was paying her, pretty good money to be like doing what she does. And she was mortified because she's like, all of a sudden I felt embarrassed about what I was wearing. And that's for her when she realized you never know who you're going to run into. And she was on her like lunch break, but she was thinking, does my client think that I'm, it's all of a sudden all these things start running through your mind. Does my client think that I always look like this when I'm doing her work and all these things? And like, does she think that I'm on the clock for her right now when I'm out in my PJs at the local grocery store or whatever? So it's kind of funny because I do agree. And like, especially now that I'm having personally more clients in my demographic. I mean, I even have some clients that work out at the same gym that I do, and which was weird for me because I'm not the girl that goes to the gym and makeup. I'm not that I'm not that much. But even for me, like, that's a little odd for me to have my clients seeing me in a gym setting because, you know what I mean? But it is interesting because you just never know who's going to be there. So yeah, I think it's a fine line.
Yeah, I agree. Let's kind of maybe shift subjects a little bit and talk about business. Let's talk about what you've learned as far as being a women entrepreneur, and please, anybody feel free to jump in and chime in because being an entrepreneur is a lot of work. I think it's a lot of work whether you're single, whether you're a mother, a working mother. I was raised by a single mother a lot of my life, and I remember her she wasn't an entrepreneur, but even so, I can imagine being an entrepreneur is just that much more busy. So, what are some of the things that you think have let's just kind of start at the beginning, have helped you be sustainable as an entrepreneur, keep the lights on and things like that?
For me, I would say having a really great support system. Like for me, like I'm really fortunate that my parents are really supportive because they've been there. I mean, they started their business when I was in first grade, so it was like no pressure. You're just like starting your business, when you have this child to support. But they're super supportive. And when I have those times of like, I think all of us have those times when you're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing kind of thing. And they're very much like, we've all been there. Like we've all been there. So I think having someone to relate to, especially, and even people who, friends of mine who are small business, I think having that really awesome kind of like support group almost people you can go to when you're like having those moments of what am I doing? And if you have like a moment of panic that you can call and they're like, listen, we've all been, I think just having people to relate to really.
A mentor
Yeah.
is something that I found very, very important. And a mentor, a woman mentor with children. When I first started my business, or when I started my first business, it was all about, just another woman to talk to. Okay, like, I would feel slighted during meetings or what have you because I was a woman, and having that other, another woman that has gone through and sort of understand, some of those blows to the self-esteem, some of those struggles, some of those pressures even. Because as a woman, I think a bit of me says, you know what, Tiff, you have to prove that you belong here. I have to prove that I'm not emotionally unstable, even though I'm a woman. I'm not going to go, when something doesn't go my way, get catty or go and cry.
Right.
I have the intellect. I have the emotional stability to be here. And that was very, very important. Understanding, some of these pressures are different for everybody. As I grew as an entrepreneur, as I became a mother, then a whole new ballgame. How do you go into work? For me, I had a catering company for a while, 570 people. How do I feed 570 people when my baby was up all night teething? How does that happen? You have to, again, relates back to the support system, the support network.
Right. Yeah. I think it's huge.
Mm.
So have you found a support network outside of, hey, how you doing?
Hi.
Kaylee? Thanks for jumping in.
Hi, Mallory.
Hi.
So Kaylee,
Can you guys hear me?
Mallory. So I wanted you two to meet each other. I met Kaylee in a network
Hi.
in Chicago. Now she's a woman entrepreneur. She runs her own errand company, running errands. Her and some of her staff for professionals in the city.
Awesome.
So so this is your first blab, isn't it? Isn't this your first blab?
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing.
Okay, so is this your first time on Blab?
It is, yeah. I don't know how to use it yet.
Okay, I'm going to give you some props there. So you just have to click on the person's picture to give them some high fives, if you want.
Cool.
So Kaylee, I guess you're kind of started your business at a fairly young age as well. I'm thinking. I mean,
I actually started my first business when I was pregnant with my daughter. I started a little catering company, a dessert catering company. And it kind of just wasn't something that I liked it, but I didn't love it. And so I kind of let it go. But this one, I'm 20, I'll be 27.
And you're younger than me.
Just a little bit. I mean, I think what Mallory was saying, just kind of not knowing what you're doing a lot of times. I have that a lot. I have that. I have no idea what I'm doing right now. I feel that a lot. And it is really helpful. I've met a lot of people who've just kind of freely given advice and said, I really like what you're doing. Like Franklin, I really like what you're doing. I think this is really cool. Here's a suggestion. And I think the biggest thing for me is just being open to those. Because I'm a very hard-headed person. So I know I'm like, well, I know everything. And this has kind of brought me back to earth. I'm saying, okay, I don't know everything. And the help that I've gotten so far has just been amazing. But it has been from people that I really admire. And that's really cool.
Right.
That's cool. That's great. And you brought up a good point when you say being open to those suggestions, because I think as entrepreneurs, a lot of times we're not open, or we want to keep control of every aspect of our business. Even as a man, I've had to. And men might actually be a little bit more stubborn too, because think about it. We supposedly when we're driving around the car, we don't want anybody telling us where to go someplace, because we know how to go there. We don't need a map, things like that. But I started. I know personally for me, and maybe the same with you. it got to the point where I just couldn't handle everything. I couldn't come up with all the answers. Business needed to grow, so I had to let go of control of quite a few things. And that brings up the next topic: strategic partnerships. So we talk about a support system. Have you found a support system anywhere outside of your immediate family? And if so, where did you meet them, and how did you develop those?
Yeah, I did. I've met some really amazing, I think networking, you meet so many amazing people. And there's some people that you just kind of click with. And I mean, some of my now closest friends have come from networking within my business, which is really awesome. And so, yeah, I've had the opportunity to have so many, I have a couple of personal trainers that are so amazing to know. And even one of my great friends who I met from networking owns a spray tan salon, and, different things like that in the beauty industry. And it's also fun to help one another. And I'm a big believer in, you get what you give, and when you help other people, you grow because it's just kind of by default, kind of thing. And so it's fun to meet new people and just have that relationship and have those things that you relate to, because we're all kind of, at the end of the day, we're all, trying to accomplish things in our different fields. But, so yeah, I've had so many great connections, which has, I think, also helped with a lot of the sustainability also, is with having those great power partners and things like that, to connect with. So.
And thank you, Kaylee.
Yeah.
Like the Brady Bunch, look down, Kaylee.
Right? I was just thinking that.
Oh, it looks like we lost Kaylee. So anyway, hey, we've kind of just gone over a lot of the standard questions, and be great for people just to jump in, just entrepreneurs in general, and ask any questions that they may have. Because, I thought you were sending me out. No, I wasn't. Come on in. There she goes.
I'm back.
Cool. Back. No, I wasn't sending you out. I was just playing Brady Bunch, I guess. But just anybody wants to jump in and just ask questions, because this really is, I want to give the spotlight to the women entrepreneurs, because the two people that work for me, they're women, and being that we're a startup, they're entrepreneurs as well. And some of my best strategic partners are women entrepreneurs. I just think they bring a whole different dynamic to a team. And what I do like is I think that in my experience, the women may be a little bit more detail oriented. So I think that kind of helps. And just for being married, I know that a lot of times my wife will help bring focus back into what I'm doing, because we're like the Lone Ranger or Wild Cowboys. We're like, hey, let's just do it, and that's how guys are. And I say, wait, have you thought about this? Have you connected the dots? And so that's one reason I really admire a lot of women entrepreneurs. So, hey, you know what, Mallory? You're my co-host here, and so you can carry the discussion. And I think this is your very first live lab that you're on?
It is.
Cool. Why don't you take the reins then? I'm just going to sit here, and you be an entrepreneur, and you run the room, and just facilitate the discussion.
Okay. Cool. So, well,
I put you on the spot.
Yeah, you put me on the spot. I'm like, what questions to ask? Well, I'd like to know what's been some of your challenges. I'm sorry, Aaron's girl. What's your first name again?
It's Kaylee.
Haley, I'm sorry. I didn't
No,
want to
that's
go.
okay.
I'll be like, hey, Aaron. Okay, what have been some of your struggles, or like what kind of things are you like? Are you on the break of like what kind of things do you need for your business to get to the next level?
I was just telling Franklin this the other day. When I started the business, it was really just kind of as a part-time thing so that I could make some extra money because I'd been doing it for a while.
Okay.
And so I just kind of offered myself to people saying like, hey, I could be your personal assistant. And there was a much higher demand for personal assistants than I expected. And so kind of catching up with things and just figuring out how to structure the business and how to hire people and find people that are like me, that have, the desire to wear a dress and heels every day, that have the organization and the intelligence and the broad background that I offer to my clients. So I think, hiring is one of my biggest concerns or issues right now. We have, I think that's probably the one that I'm most concerned about right now is finding quality people that I'm okay with offering to clients.
Sure.
The clients are out there and we find them easily. It's just, I want to make sure that my image is and my company's image is reflected in the right way. That's
right.
one of the most important things to me, I think.
Right. And then we have a question. What are your biggest challenges and how do you overcome them? So what have been your biggest challenges?
The hiring I think is probably the biggest one and just, at first figuring out how to structure things and how, getting over those what if moments. You said something about this that, being a business owner was kind of the only option. My family was totally opposite. My mom was a teacher and my dad has worked for IBM for like forever.
Yeah.
And so, having those, we never had those moments where you had a really difficult struggle and then had to overcome it. I do all of that by myself. And I go and talk to my dad, and he has a really good business understanding, but he hasn't been there. So finding people to ask for help and,
absolutely,
getting over those times where I'm like, oh, I can't do this.
Right.
And, just kind of finding that motivation that's also a challenge too.
Sure. I think,
Is it pretty lonely?
Yeah.
Is it lonely being a business owner? I mean, either one of you, is it lonely?
I think I used to feel that way, but now that I have like some really awesome people that I know I can go to in those moments of like just like frustration or whatever, or like, hey, can I run this idea by you? Do you think that's totally crazy? Because I'm one of those people that I think of ideas like constantly. I mean, my idea to-do list or like lists are just like outrageous. Sometimes I'm like, so I need to like have a couple lifetimes. but it's also like having those people that are totally get that you think that way and they just like celebrate that and they're like, that's amazing. And I think just having kind of those like cheerleaders, I think is just nice to have. And like you'll definitely find those people. It's just like the more you network and the more you meet other business owners, you'll just like connect with them. And it's kind of like going to college or something. You find those few like friends kind of thing that you just click with right away, and suddenly you have like this friendship that's not just work, but you also like help each other with work things, which is super cool. Like that definitely, when you like find those people, it definitely changes. I think it's definitely easier to have like that awesome mindset of like feeling like things are you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and so you don't feel lonely, like Franklin was asking.
For sure.
I think that's huge.
Hey, Mallory, looks like you have a question.
Okay.
Michael D. Second. Michael D. Second. I get it. He said, "What's your biggest challenge?"
My biggest challenge, I think, definitely when I started my business, I did not realize that what I do was so foreign to the Chicagoland area. Like, I thought like, well, doesn't everybody know what an image consultant is? But no, they don't. they don't. So I think for me, a big challenge was I looked at like the first year really of my business was really educating people about what my business is and like what I do. And that because I definitely had people that it was, I'd show up to networking events. I'm 22 and they're like, oh, so like that's a job. Like, so you shop for a living. And I was like, no, because to me, it's like, sure, I do like that's a portion of what I do. But for me, like that's not really like I help people create an image. So I was like, no. So developing my message, I think, like really honing in on like describing what I do is that I am building a personal brand for people and I'm helping people really like create that. Because when I first started, I was just like, I think I also like felt like I wanted to be everything in like the fashion world, and like help everyone with every part of it. But realizing where my strong suits are and like really just honing in on my message was definitely a challenge because I just assumed that people got what I did. But they don't understand. So, and it is still shocking to me even now. Like I'll meet some people that are like, oh, like that's a thing. Because people do think that personal stylists and things like that are just for celebrities and things like that. So that's definitely been the biggest challenge for me is just really having people see that it's not just about the clothes. Like it's more than just like shopping has definitely been the challenge. So
so we have a question from the set. How do you gather a list of possible prospects?
A list of possible in terms of like clients?
Yeah. Lisa, how do you meet your prospects or your clients?
Yeah. Well, a lot of my client for me with like what I do, because it is so personal, people have to be ready for the process. Because it's not like I found that like people need to find they need to come. They need to have that whatever moment it is that it's like, okay, I need to have this help. So a lot of my clients come to me from like a lot of people find me from the internet. Yelp has been huge for me. A lot of referrals. So like a lot of clients refer me. You know how that goes because suddenly I'll have one client that's feeling awesome about herself and suddenly her business is exploding and all her friends are like, what's going on? And they all want that, because we all want to feel really awesome about ourselves. And they see, well, why is your business growing? And they're like, well, I just feel better about myself. It's funny. I've like trained my clients. I'm like, they go tell people, they're like, I feel better about myself. And Mallory helped me like celebrate me again. And, they're like, my closet's a happy place now. So it's funny because it trickles into other areas of your life. So a lot of people, referrals, obviously. I do networking and things like that. And so, yeah, it's kind of a mixture of things, I would say, for me. How about you?
Me or
either of you? Yeah.
Kelly? I think that's your question.
Are you asking me? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Asking you.
You're like, what?
Right here. Okay. honestly, So the business is very new, so a lot of my clients came from just talking to people I know and saying, "Hey, I'm doing this now." And I think just kind of having the background, and I'm sure you did too. You know, people knew you had the expertise, and so when you started it, they said, "Oh, okay. Well, I already know you're good at that. I'll give you a chance," and then you kind of start growing from there. I think the difference is that a lot of our clients don't want to refer us to people because they're afraid that they'll lose us. They're like, "Oh, no, we can't share you."
I've had that too. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's, it's kind of like a little coaxing thing, like, it's gonna be okay. We'll still be here for you, and the whole point of this is to grow and so.
Right. Well, I'm sure you've had too. I've had some people that they're kind of embarrassed to admit that they needed help with that. Like they're like, I don't want people to know.
That too. Yeah.
I needed help to dress.
That I asked someone.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but it's funny because as soon as they start to see areas of other parts of their lives become different in a positive way because of your service and my service, I think they're more willing to then begin to share that.
Right.
But yeah, it's kind of funny because it's almost like they don't want to admit it or they don't want to share you. They're like, I don't want everybody else to know. Like, you're my little
secret. Right. That's another thing too. We've definitely had like the, part of what we say is like, no one has to know that we're there. We're behind the scenes, we're doing these things to help you, but it'll look like you're just a superstar. So
yeah.
Awesome. So, I'm gonna actually just kind of recap for people who may have just joined the room. So we're here. I'm kind of just hosting women entrepreneurs. We're celebrating them. So maybe some challenges that they have, and we're talking about how to overcome those challenges. Mallory Sills here was very kind to be the very first guest of mine celebrating women entrepreneurs. She's an image consultant. And basically helps people with their professional image and to feel good about themselves. So it's been a very nice conversation. So now we're kind of just really talking about anything there. I would like to say something that I think was very kind from Mr. Michael II, and I think it's something that's very needed. He was saying that you can definitely tell that both you, Kaylee, and Mallory are humble. And I think, I actually think as a woman entrepreneur, that is something that is it's important for anybody, but I tend to think that a lot of people may look at women that maybe in your industry and have a preconceived notion about your personality. I mean, errand girls, Kaylee, you say, hey, we do everything in heels and what is it, skirts? Is that what you said?
Dress in heels, yeah.
Dress in heels. So like, oh, okay, so maybe. I don't know, maybe they're stuck up or they're not really down to earth and being an image consultant to people. So I think that was very kind that he can see just from here being on Blab that both of you are humble. That says a lot about both of you. But now I'm going to ask the loaded question, because one thing about Blab that a lot of people like is they want you to be yourself. They want you to be real. So knowing that you're an image consultant, Mallory, do you ever find yourself coming on Blab, maybe in, I'm not going to say yoga pants, but in your workout gear? Or do you think that may hurt your image and your brand?
That's a good question. Because I will be honest with you, I'm very rarely, I wear workout clothes to the gym. Like, I really am like very, like I practice what I preach. So like, just because I'm like on talking, a lot of people think that like, oh, I say it, but I don't actually do it. And like the same thing goes for like, you can bet that my closet is organized, because I tell all my clients they better have a closet organized. So I'm going to have my closet organized. I don't know if it would necessarily hurt my brand. It's kind of funny when I've run into clients on the weekend if I'm running errands, if I don't have my makeup on or something like that. Like clients are like, "Oh, it's kind of nice to see you like not like with makeup on and like in sneakers, like kind of thing." And I'm like, "Okay." So I think
Yeah, I get that too.
right, like
No.
No makeup.
so it's one of those things where I think people, I don't know if it would hurt my brand, but I don't know how much it would really affect it, because I do typically always dress and have myself, I have my makeup on and all that kind of thing. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it. Like, should it like be relevant, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's an interesting thought. Because it's funny because a lot of my clients have never even seen me in flat shoes. So
yeah, it's funny. A lot of people don't see me outside of a suit usually.
Right.
I usually wear a suit. But I think what I'm finding out here on Blab is a lot of people, even though they want you to be yourselves, are listening more to what you're saying.
Yeah.
So I think you are saying a lot of great things. So if you decided just to show up without makeup and whatever, I think the words that are coming out of your mouth will speak volumes to how you run your business and things like that. So I don't think it would hurt your brand at all, actually.
Right. Yeah.
What do you think, Kelly?
I mean, I'm very similar to her. I rarely wear pants. I do my entire life in a dress and heels. So, and I actually feel really uncomfortable. I'm actually wearing pants right now, and all day I've been like, oh, that's weird. Yeah. But
no,
it is. I mean, it's part of. I think for me, it would be sort of damaging, because if I'm out doing something and I say, oh, well, I'm an errand girl and I do everything in a dress and heels and I'm wearing corduroys, they're like, what? So I am very careful about that. And I enjoy it anyway. I love dresses and I love wearing high heels. So it was just really cold today and I was like, wow, I'm not prepared.
And it's almost like that's just become you. Like that's just who you are. And it's like, for me, like, it's just, I've always been one to get dressed. Like
dressed up. Yeah.
I've always been that. So to me, it's not out of my norm. I would be doing it anyways, even if I didn't have the business that I have.
Right.
So, and I think some people don't, like, when they see you out in your normal life, they almost like want to see, like, they want to like catch you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but that's just like, you're probably not really going to, because it's just not who I am.
Yeah. It's pretty
Yeah.
Wow. So I just have one last question, because we've been on here about an hour, but this is actually good. We've had 57 people jump on. We have 7 live viewers. So thank you for everybody for your great questions and just jumping in to listen. My final thing is, do you see that how Blab will actually be able to help out your brand? I mean, it's the first time for both of you.
Yeah.
And I want to hear your feedback, and I'll let you know how it's helped me for the little bit of time that I've been on here. So who wants to go first? You or you?
Yeah, I mean, this is the first this is the most public I've ever been about Errand Girls. So it's very exciting. I'm really excited to talk about it to more than one person at once.
Right.
And put your link.
I mean, it's a really cool app. I've never even heard of it. So I would definitely like to use it again. I mean.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see. The Errand Girl. I'm going to put your link. Well, okay. So what's your website then? Because I want to give you props. It's go ahead.
theerrandgirls.com. www.theerrandgirls.com.
Errandgirls.com. All right. So there you go. You can check her out there, and Mallory, you can put yours in in the comment section too. So what was my question? I forgot my question. Oh yeah, how's it going to help out your brand? Do you see this helping you out your brand, Mallory?
Definitely. I think with I've noticed I've been like, I think I told you I've been doing more video and just videos and things like that, and using technology more. I think a lot of, like, for me, I can totally admit, although I'm a millennial or whatever we're called, I was fighting. I was like fighting technology because I'm like, no, I want to be with people in person and, you know, all that stuff. But it really can change your business for sure. And I think it's another way to build your brand. You know, I mean, I found even just with a few of, I've been doing more just like video style tips, and people love to see you and hear you. You know, it's one of those things where it's just like they just relate to you when they see you physically speaking, and they hear the words that you're saying rather than just typing it out. As much as we can type out things all day long, it's a totally different reaction when they hear your voice, and, you know, they just feel like they know you a little bit more, I think.
When you do a very visual thing too. And so I think, you know, like it helps just for people to actually see what you're,
right.
I mean,
right.
In motion, in live time.
Yeah, and they kind of feel like they can know you. Like, I like to say, like, I mean, I like to make jokes and like joke around and stuff like that. So like, one of my friends was like, you should show that in your videos. And it's funny because I tested it doing one where I was totally like joking, kind of like how I joke around about things. And people loved it so much more than the ones that I kind of like tone myself down a little bit. People just want to see you. I think is really what I've learned from doing video things. They just want to see you. Even with Periscope, I did a Periscope about like, hey, take a walk inside my closet. Because I know people always ask me like, oh, I wonder what your closet looks like. So I figured, why don't I just show you? I don't have anything to hide. So they like, and I get it because I know people that I follow. It's interesting to see what they're doing on a daily basis and feel like you're in their world a little bit.
That's a really good point, you know, and I could see clearly, well, that would be help your business out a lot, you know.
Periscope
I think that's
like going to the grocery store.
Yeah.
I have a system though, so.
No, I think that's great. And I think Periscope is great. There's a lot of blabs on here about Periscope and versus Blab. We're using both of them. I've been on here about 40-something, 50-something days. And it's not only till recently I started hosting my own shows or jumping in a lot of other people. I'll tell you what it's done for me is, excuse me, I've been able to connect with some people I never even thought I would be able to connect with. Right. You know, I connected with a CEO of a record label and one of his acts that he signed. I was able to get on this morning with 3 of probably of the top social media leaders in the world. I sat in and talked with them. So, you know, when you can talk one-on-one with people and people can hear it coming from your mouth, I think that just adds much more credibility. It's much more powerful than them going to your website. Because now, like you said, Mallory, they connect with you. Right. People more apt to, you know, so you never know where this could lead. It could lead to speaking engagements. It could lead to people. A guy told me today that he had a major airline call him. Now this was on Scope, but he periscoped. He does digital signs, and he went and he did a periscope with his digital sign behind him, showing what they did. He got a call from a major airline. Now they're inking the deal. So I'm like, wow. I mean, talk about something powerful. So I'm really happy.
Video is huge. I feel like with internet, like everything with the internet, you know, I mean, even Instagram is, but you know, you see more video type posts now on Instagram and things like that. So, and it is, I mean, we want to kind of feel like feel like video makes you feel like you're kind of knowing that you're along with that person right then and there. Even if it was pre-recorded, it's kind of like you just feel like I'm there with them. They're talking
less
staged,
thing. Less perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So, hey, you know what? I think we're about an hour and 12 minutes. This was really great, especially for our first blab together.
Yeah.
Make sure that you hit the tweet this little bird, so go out to all your followers over there on the left-hand side. And I shall have a replay that's going to be ready probably shortly after this is done. So be sure to check out the replay underneath my profile. I'm not quite sure if you're able to share the replay to your YouTube channels, but if I'm able to download it, I'll be more than happy to share it with you so you can put it onto your websites and get it out there. So any last thoughts, any last words? Does everybody just want to say good night and go to bed?
Thank you for having me on. This was so fun. It's always fun to talk about entrepreneurship and as a woman and all those fun things. And thank you for having me.
No problem. Well, thank two of you for what you're doing. I think your businesses are great. Maybe you two can can hook up.
Yeah.
You know, I think that would be great. And hey, thanks a lot. And make sure we follow each other. Okay.
Yes. Awesome.
Thank you everybody for jumping in. Have a nice evening. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.